Working on replacing the power steering pump on my Mustang. I thought it was the old high pressure line leaking that I've already put a O-ring and the little seal that Ford uses on it, and that sealed it pretty good. I found it was leaking out of the pump. So I'm going to start this project. I already have the battery disconnected. I got my cover off here, and while I have this apart, I think I'm going to address some of the wiring stuff that I don't quite like how this is just taped together there. There's some stuff on the ground wire I don't quite like, and just review that and see if there's anything I can do better. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my battery and the battery holder out to give me some extra room to get down in here. Remove my belt, check the belt out. If it's questionable, I'll replace it. So it looks like there's 4 bolts that I can see here, and that should get it removed. I'll have to jack it up, get some of these lines off. I'm going to replace the high pressure line with the power steering pump. I got the battery and battery tray out of the Mustang in preparation to get this power steering pump pulled out. I was looking at some of my wiring. I think I'm going to replace this ground wire. It don't look quite so good. Overall, not too bad. The electric fan, when it's installed, got a bare wire there, and then a couple tape connections here. So I'm going to go back and fix that, clean some of this up here. I'm not going to paint anything in the engine bay until I pull the engine out and rebuild it. So now I have pretty good access to that. I just need to jack the car up. So I'm about to pull the accessory belt off my '89 Mustang. So I noticed that right there. I thought it was metric, and it's actually American. 5/8 will work on this one. So try to do 2 things at once here. Just got to lift up on it, pull it up, and then with your other hand that you're not holding a cell phone in, you just pull the belt out. Before you get the belt out, you might want to take a picture of it to make sure you know what your setup is. The factory will also tell you. That's not really relevant. You see the 2.3 right there. This is not a 2.3 engine. So I've done mine enough. I know what it is, but if you have something modified, make sure you take good pictures of how the belt goes on, and I'll save you some headache in the future. Got the power steering pump off the Mustang. So I'll need to do rinse the pulley puller to get that off, and then get back to a couple bolts back there. And I'll change the pump out, put a new pulley on. I might as well clean this piece up, paint it silver, do a clear coat on it while it's down. Reshooting a little bit here. I think I had a little grease on my camera. Hands over there. I don't know where that come from. Not because I've got greasy hands or anything and I touch my phone. But the engine's, it's old, it's dirty. It needs to come out and be rebuilt. I'll do that eventually. Right now I'm repairing some stuff as I go along. Right now it's just the power steering. I'm going to try to do this power steering line. The high pressure line, I have an option to come through the top. If I jack it up, I can come through the bottom. I'm looking at replacing the high pressure line because, as you can see, there's weather cracking in this line. I don't want it blowing out as I'm going down the interstate or something. So now's the time to replace it instead of trying to be cheap and not doing it now. I'm about to pull the pulley off my power steering pump. Just want to show how this pulley puller that I rented works. So there's a couple pieces to it. That's the puller. Got a little piece here that hooks up underneath the edge of the pulley, so the small side of that goes down, and then the big side of that catches around the edge of the puller. There's a sleeve that goes over the top of it that holds it all together. Then you can just tighten it up and it all clamps together at that point. So it takes two hands to really do this, But once this gets tight, you can put your wrench on one end there and then impact up here, and it'll pull the pulley off. So the pull is off using the Pulley Puller. So it's just pressed onto this shaft right here. So I'll use the tool. There's another tool in the kit that presses the new one on. So now I can get the power steering pump off by these 3 bolts. I can clean my bracket up, paint it silver, and then do a clear coat on it. And that piece will be done whenever I go to build the engine. Won't have to come back and revisit it. I have the Mustang power steering pump bracket and pulley painted and ready to go back together. So I just cleaned the aluminum up and did the aluminum or silver paint. It makes it have a good clean look to it. So I've cleaned my bolts up so they look a little better. I've sprayed the threads down with mass air cleaner. You can use brake clean. I just happened to grab that one. And what I'm going to do is use this Loctite and put a drop on there and then torque these down. That's one thing you don't want coming apart on you. I got the bracket bolted back on and torqued, so it calls for 30 to 45 foot-pounds from the service manual. So I got those torqued on there, and I'm ready to put the pulley on. And what I did, since this is a press fit, is I put a light coat of oil on both the shaft and on the inside of the pulley hole. So the tool from the tool kit that I'm going to use is this one. So it has a little seat that goes on there that can press the pulley in, and it's also the bolt that matches the shaft. So if we look down in the shaft there, you can see that is a threaded hole, and then that bolt will just suck it right down in there. I'm getting the power steering pump on, and as you can see, I got one bolt in and lined up. Down there on the bottom I have my little, I don't know what you call those tool, little pry bars. It's tapered on the end. I use that to get the bolt hole lined up. So you see how close this is with the SN95 fan and the aftermarket aluminum radiator. That makes it a little harder. I can't just square up into it. I didn't want to take the radiator and fan assembly out just to do this. So it is doable. It didn't take me that long to do it, so don't be afraid if you have the same setup. So I'm working on getting this power steering high pressure hose in, and having a little bit of trouble with it, but that's pretty typical for these. It's a tight spot, and there's no good reference to get the line on there. So I'm taking a hand brake and just doing a quick video. I got the sway bar kind of out of the way, and then I'm thinking I might have to drop the rack a little bit. Comes a point on some of these projects, it's like, do I have to take half the car apart to get one line on? So I'll keep working on it. I may come up where that little blue cap is and put that side of it on, and then that'll help me with how to route it. I got the high pressure hose on. This is the only way I could figure out to get it on and actually get it to thread. I've tried looping it different methods, and I never could get it to thread in. So it's out of the way. It's nowhere near a belt. It's nowhere near a header. It's not dragging the ground, so I'm going to leave it alone. Doesn't look the prettiest. It probably isn't the factory location, but it will work. So these little, this top hose, I got a small bungee cord on it. Having those things around helps out a lot. That just kept getting in the way, and I kept having to fight it while trying to put the hose on. So that was pretty hard. The only thing I don't like right now is how close it is to the oil filter. It actually is hitting when I roll it around there. So I'm going to take this bend and bend it down just a little bit to give me more clearance, because I don't want to have to fight the oil filter when we're going to do an oil change. I have the new power steering pump and high pressure hose on the Mustang. I was going to do a little bit of how-to and how I did it, but there's a lot of YouTube videos out there, and I'll post those up in the link. One of the things I want to note, whenever I put my new rack on, I didn't do a new power steering pump and hose. So if you had the money to do it all at once, that'd be the best way to do it. You get better access to these lines and hoses. Got the power steering pump back on. I got the serpentine belt on. I'm looking at the depth of the pulley on the power steering pump, because it should go down there and seat good and have good alignment like what you see here. I'm not seeing the belt squish forward or backwards. So I'm just double checking my belt, making sure everything's in its grooves, routed correctly. Looks pretty good. The other thing I did, I replaced my negative battery terminal with one of these platinum ones that I got from Parts Express, kind of like what the car stereo guys use. That's a lot better connection than the other one. Repaired a couple wires. Didn't touch the positive cable. It's new and it's short, so I didn't see any reason in going in and wasting one of those platinum connectors like that over here. Not just yet, anyway.